In this video, we're going to show you how to use the 3D Greyscale library that comes with your iCarver. You'll have noticed with your machine comes a DVD with over 500 grayscale images. These are high-resolution grayscale models, which were originally designed for use with the iPicture software, but they can also be used with ArtCAM as well. And we're going to give you an illustration of that here. First thing I'm going to do is click on New Model, and I'm going to set up my workspace, or my job dimensions, which are going to be X12 and Y12. I'm setting my origin position in the top left corner, as we do with many of our projects that we work on in ArtCAM Express, using the iCarver, because the home position of the iCarver is the top left corner. I'm going to click OK, and our workspace should be illustrated in the center of our screen here shortly. Up in the menu bar, I'm going to go up to Reliefs, and click on Reliefs, and I'm going to go to the Import function. And I just go back a level here, and you can see I've basically copied the entire contents of that DVD onto my hard drive. And these are all categorized by plant, scenery, frame, portraits and human images, animals, text, and so on. So let's just click on Animals, and we'll open that up. And we will try this rabbit here. I'm going to open that image. Now you'll see, as is the case with any 3D model, over on the right-hand side we have our scale and size. So you can see that the size of this image is quite large. What the software does is it converts whatever units the image is. In this case, it was dots per inch. This image would have been 1067 by 1188 dots per inch, and it converts it into the units we're working with. In this case, is inches. The good thing is that I can scale this to any size that I want, so I'm going to change this to a much more manageable size. We'll say 9 inches. You can see that the height changes proportionately. And because I didn't lock the Z range with the width and height, I can set the Z range to any size that I want. In this case, I'm going to change it to 1/4 inch. And I'm going to click Apply. And we're going to center that model, and you can see there's the outline of our rabbit in the center of our workspace. Now the other thing that I'm going to do just before I paste it is I'm going to go over here to the Relief Clip Art Paste options, and you can see I have an option here to add, subtract, replace, merge high, merge low. The only two that I'm really concerned about when I'm working with just a single model is the add or subtract. So the add is going to basically machine this as a positive. If I was to click subtract, then what it would do is it would actually create a negative, like a mold, for example. Supposing I wanted to machine this as a mold to maybe pour a cast, some cast aluminum, or cast acrylic, or perhaps a chocolate mold or something like that, then I could subtract it and make it into a negative. In this case, I want it to be a positive, so I'm going to add it. And the other option that I have is to paste the outline of the vector, so I can actually see the outline of it. I could turn that on or off if I chose. In this case, I want it on. And then once we're satisfied that the image is the size we want and the location that we want, we'll click Paste. And if we go to our 3D view, you're going to notice that the model, just going to take this and rotate it, so you can see that the model is actually sitting above our workspace. And you can see it right there. And it's machining it to 1/4 inch depth. It's not a concern at this point, but what will happen is that the software, once it recognizes we want to machine this, is going to correct that and drop it down into our workspace for us. So we're going to click on Toolpath now, and we'll go back to our 2D view. In Toolpaths, what we want to now do is we want to go down to the 3D Toolpath section and create a Machine Relief Toolpath. So I'm going to click on that, and you can see that right now that by default the area to machine is the whole relief. I don't want to machine the whole relief, and the reason is if I was to machine the outer edges of this workspace, because with whole relief it's going to machine all this area here, leaving the 3D model in full relief. And the problem, of course, is I'm going to machine to the outer edges of my workspace, and I will have clamps over here on the right, and with an iCarver I'm going to have a fence over here on the left. So typically what I'll do in these situations is I will basically draw a rectangle around my workspace, or around my image, and center it. And I will change this area to machine from whole relief to selected vectors. And you will see that I have the option of machining inside or outside the vectors. In this case, obviously, I want to make it inside. down to the finishing options. I'm going to move down into our iCarver General Toolkit section, and I'm going to select the iCarver Conical V-bit. And I'm not going to use a roughing tool because I'm only going to a 1/4 inch depth, so with most materials that we'll cut with the iCarver, most hardwoods, plastics, I would be able to machine this to a 1/4 inch depth with a single pass. So I don't really need a roughing tool to clear out that area. I can pretty much do it all with one pass with the conical V-bit. And I'm going to click Calculate now. And you can see that it's calculating the toolpath for us. And when it's done, it should be just a second. We'll close the machine relief window. And the only thing that we didn't do, we'll just go back in here for a quick second, is we didn't establish the material thickness. So we'll go down here to click to define material, and you'll see that what it's done is it's made the material thickness 0.24 inches, which matches the model thickness. At this point, I want to change the material thickness to reflect what my actual material thickness is. In this case, it's going to be 3/4 of an inch. And I'm also going to change my reference point from the bottom of the material to the top. So I'll be touching off the top of the material. This is a little bit different in 2015, a little bit different functionality than you may have seen if you were using 2013 previously, because we would normally have set all this up in our job setup dimensions. But in this case, it gives us the option of changing it when we're actually in the toolpath. So you can see that we've changed this to the top of the block. So our material Z0 and our model position in the material are both set at the top of the block. And our model thickness is a 1/4 inch machining through a piece of material 3/4 of an inch. You can see the dark gray area is where we'll machine, the light gray area is where we won't. And we're going to click OK, and now we're going to calculate again, just to recalculate that information. And we will now close the machine relief window and go back to Toolpaths, where we will now do our simulation to make sure that we're satisfied that the project is exactly the way we want it to be. And you can see it's only a single pass operation, so it's just going to go through this operation one time. And it tends to be very slow in the simulation. We've got a very close step over here, about 0.08 of an inch is how I have this set up. So it's machining this in pretty fine detail, and of course, as the simulation is showing us, it's going to take a little bit of time to machine, but the results should be outstanding when we're done. So we'll just wait for it to complete its simulation here. Just about done. And there we have our rabbit machined in full 3D. We can zoom in, perhaps rotate it. For those that aren't familiar with the rotation and the zoom function, just moving the roller in and out with your mouse, just the roller on your mouse will move the image in and out. To rotate the part, very simply push down on the roller. So you'd move the roller in and out to rotate it, or to zoom it, but push down on the roller and then move the mouse allows you to rotate the 3D model. And the last thing for us to do is to save the toolpath. As you can see, only one toolpath listed here because we're using the machine relief toolpath with the conical V-bit, only one tool in this operation. We can change the destination where we want to save it by clicking Browse. In this case, I'm just going to save it to my desktop, and we'll call it Rabbit. And the last thing is to make sure, in this case, because we're using our general iCarver, we want to make sure our machine file format reads general iCarver, and that's a .dat format. We'll click Save, and we'll close the Save Toolpath window, and that operation is now complete. So now I have two choices. We can take that DAT file, load it straight to our thumb drive, put it on our machine and run it. As those of you who have done any output files on your machine, which I'm sure you probably have, you'll know that there is no border function with that DAT file. If you want to make sure that you have that border function and it's active, then you need to take that DAT file into iPicture, convert it to a G file, and we've gone through that operation in several of the previous videos, so we won't go through that again. But you'll need to do that in order to be able to output a G file, which will then activate the border function, and you can machine that project as well. So either a DAT file or a G file works on the machine, Either one, whichever works best for you. And that's the completion of this video.